morning, and welcome to the Dreary Midnight Podcast. My name is Lisa, my pronouns are she, they.
My name is Celeste, my pronouns are she, her.
And tonight, if you're listening in, you've made it to 2024.
Woo!
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year!
And,
would all the acquaintance be forgotten?
Anyway, we're gonna irritate new neighbors. Also, if you listen to the Patreon, you know I just moved.
Lisa moved.
Woo! Don't want to get on the wrong foot with brand new neighbors. There's also a dog next door. I haven't met them yet.
Hopefully they're better behaved than Clementine is.
Anyway, but tonight we are talking about the demon cat of the Capitol building. So let's get into it. Intro music.
Intro music. That's the first intro music of 2024.
First intro music of 2024, indeed. And if you're listening to this, you will already know, but I don't know if we're going to change the theme song or not. I like the theme song.
I like the theme song, but we'll see.
Yeah. Also, if my voice sounds weird, I woke up yesterday feeling kind of scratchy.
And they're wearing a mask right now.
Yeah. So if my diction is weirder than normal, that's what that is.
Because they don't want to get me sick, and they're always thinking of me. Oh.
Yes.
Friends.
Yes. But we just did a recording that the listeners will hear towards the end of this episode. We have lots of tour guide friends who have a couple of personal encounters, and so usually I open with, what do you already know about the subject matter? But we've already done some recording about the subject matter.
Yeah.
But
it was, there was some wonkiness with the audio.
Yeah, on our end. So we're recording our history bets.
Exactly.
So,
we're recording our parts, and then we'll put in some of the
pod. We'll put in a little bit later.
Yeah.
But, so usually my opening question is, what do you already know about the Demon Cat of DC?
Well, I will... Do you want me to cheat because I technically already heard it?
Sure.
The part?
Yeah.
Or because before today, I knew nothing about... I didn't even know there was a Demon Cat of DC.
Yeah. I had... The road to get here was kind of a long one. Because apparently there's not a ton on Koshi the Deathless. So shout out to Koshi the Deathless.
No.
He's a fairy tale figure in Slavic folklore. But anyway, so I asked around for a few ghost friends, and the Demon Cat of the Capitol came up. And so sometimes it's just spooking, and sometimes it shows up in advance of national tragedy.
So it's like an omen.
Yes. The cat itself, according to people who have actually seen it, it's just like a black cat, with bright green eyes.
That sounds like many black cats.
Yes, exactly. But according to the whiteHouseHistory.org, there is an 1898 article in the Washington Post, and the demon cat appears as a regular-sized house cat. It appears like that initially, and then quickly expands to the size to, quote, the size of an elephant before the eyes of the terrified observer, unquote.
That's a big kitty.
Yeah.
Okay, because when you said it's the size of a regular house cat, I was like, okay, it's a black cat. It's not like a supernatural cat. But then you said elephant, and now I'm...
a little bit terrified.
Yeah.
So the first recorded appearance of the demon cat was in the, again, this is according to whiteHouseHistory.org, was in the first recorded sighting, 1862. So during the Civil War, the U.S. Capitol's basement was used as a bakery to feed soldiers, and the demon cat appeared there several times. A guard reportedly fired a gun at the cat, and it disappeared. Since the initial manifestation, the demon cat most frequently shows up in the basement of the Capitol building. It is sometimes described as a tabby, although others who have claimed to have seen it believe it is black. So origin stories are around the end of the Civil War, because that's when the current Capitol building was finished. Also, little fun thing to support the existence of a cat, or several, in the Capitol building. There are apparently a few little paw prints in
In like the cement?
Yeah, in the cement. Because the Supreme Court didn't always have its own building. The Supreme Court used to meet in what is now the Capitol building. Before that, they met in Philadelphia, and didn't have their own building. I think construction started around 1929.
Okay.
So, yeah, for 60-ish years, 70 almost. Well, technically more than that because they moved into the Capitol building when it's in its early iteration in, the 1820s and 30s. But yeah, for a long time, the Supreme Court met in the Capitol building, and there are little paw prints in cement right in front of the cement of the old Supreme Court rooms. But according to Atlas Obscura, they quote Steve Livingood, who is the chief tour guide of the Capitol Historical Society. Mm-hmm. Most people who saw her were night watchmen. There's a couple different iterations, most common of which is that a guard is on patrol one night and he sees a black cat approaching, and cats were pretty common already because looking for mice and stuff.
Yeah.
And
what year was this?
So just post Civil War, so 1860s, 70s. And so the standing guard, sees the black cat. As the cat comes closer, again according to Atlas Obscura, it grew in size until it was as large as a tiger. The monster cat pounced on the guard, who fell down and tried to protect himself, but the creature vanished midair.
That's terrifying.
Right?
I just got chills.
Yeah. But one of the fun things that Atlas Obscura points out is, what's kept the legend alive all of this time? A couple features in the Capitol building are said to be evidence of her existence. Most famous of which are the paw prints in the small Senate rotunda. That's kind of near the old Senate or old Supreme Court offices. And but then Livingood also says it's totally possible that a regular cat walked across.
Well, we don't know.
Yeah,
that's the mystery.
Yeah. But that was in 1898 when their concrete was hurt by a gas explosion, and we're pouring new concrete. And so it's totally possible that just one of the Mousers saw a prey and...
The Mousers.
Yeah.
I love that they had jobs.
Yeah.
Also, so this is a little tangent, but my parents' front porch was repaved a while ago when I was still living there. But the tiles that they used have little dog prints on them. It wasn't any of our dogs, but it now looks as though there was a little dog that was walking on our porch.
It's adorable. Oh,
I know.
Yeah.
My mom has dog statues too, so it fits.
Yeah. Maybe a dog was coming to pay homage to your mom.
The dog statues.
Yes.
The dog statues came to life.
Yeah. The other main thing that happened, or the other main bit of tiny evidence somewhere, the letters DC have been scratched into the concrete, and Livingood says, everyone says, oh yeah, that's the demon cat putting its initials there, because District of Columbia, also demon cat.
DC, yeah.
Yeah.
First of all, so you're saying that the demon cat is also literate?
Yes. Apparently. But apparently she shows up in advance of a lot of national tragedies. Legend has it that...
she's like the Mothman. We still haven't done an episode on the Mothman.
We gotta do the Mothman.
I know, anyway. But that's such a hefty episode.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, this is from Wikipedia, citing to an article from 2009. And apparently she's been cited before the assassinations of both Abraham Lincoln and JFK. But she's not exclusively to the White House, or to the Capitol building. She's occasionally seen in the vicinity of the White House as well.
Okay.
So
it'll be people see her walking around, and then a few days later.
Yeah, within the week, usually. But, yeah, usually within the week.
Wait. I just registered. Abraham Lincoln and JFK.
Yeah.
So this cat's immortal?
Well, if you're a demon, then regular mortality rules don't apply, do they?
That's fair.
Yeah.
But it's a demon who's corporeal, also.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that mortality rules don't apply.
I know. I have a theory that it's that it's a demon possessing either, I don't know if it's demon possessing one cat or a demon possessing multiple cats.
It could be multiple, then that could be sometimes it's a black and sometimes
so there's
it's
a tabby. This is interesting.
Yeah. But there are some potential explanations for at least some of the earlier ones.
No,
right?
It's a tiger-sized black cat.
But counterpoint, a lot of the guards were like somebody's drunk brother-in-law or something. So if you're a drunk, sleep-deprived brother-in-law of someone who just wants you to get a job so you can support your family, sometimes you're not the most reputable one.
I want to believe that guy was like, he got knocked down by a regular cat but didn't want to admit it. So he's like, no, it was like the size of a tiger.
Yeah.
It was huge.
It just vanished, and that's why there's no scratch marks.
Yeah. Is it just like, or it could just be a normal cat?
It could just be a normal cat, is the other basic explanation of it.
I like the idea that this cat shows up as an omen, though.
Yeah.
Because even if it is, like, maybe the size things could have been exaggerated, it could be a coincidence that it shows up in omens as an omen. It could be not. I don't know. I guess it depends on how many cats are roaming DC or roaming that area.
Yeah. But yeah, it's not necessarily just assassinations. Again, according to WhiteHouseHistory.org, couple variations. She's also when the demon cat appears on the ground floor of the White House, considered previously as a basement, the apparition foreshadows a terrible event. As the tale goes, White House guard witnessed the demon cat just before the stock market crash in 1929. October of 1929. And it goes on, although the demon cat's appearance at the White House cannot be confirmed by a first-hand source, the feline apparition is occasionally listed as one of the most famous ghosts of the executive mansion.
Oh, wow.
And I just love this illustration on the White House website, where it's a photo of some pillars near the Capitol building, and it's just like an illustration of a cat over top of the photo.
It's giving Cheshire Cat.
Right?
But, like, because it's just the laughing cats. Think of it as Cheshire Cat.
Yeah.
But, like, old-timey.
And in profile instead of looking straight at you. Like, pre-Disney we're talking about.
Yeah. That's what I'm, like, the old, like, the original, like, book or whatever. And that's basically what it looks like.
Yeah. Do you remember when,
I have such a hyperfixation with Alice in Wonderland, dude.
So you would know, when was it originally published?
It was in the I think the late 1800s. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure it's late 1800s or early 1900s, like way early. But I'm pretty sure it was the 1890s.
Okay, so after DC's first sighting.
Hold on, I'm gonna look this up. 1865. It was early. When was, and this was
also mid 1860s.
Yeah.
The first sightings were mid 1860s, but first reported in 1898.
Well, this was across the pond.
Yeah.
So
maybe.
Maybe not.
All right.
Either way, cats are mysterious creatures. So I wouldn't be surprised if there were more than one.
They are indeed. Also, other potential lateral explanation for the tabby sightings is the potential influence of Tiger, who is a wandering cat of considerable renown, owned by President Calvin Coolidge. And Tiger got out. Again, according to WhiteHouseHistory.org, she lived at the White House, but liked to visit other federal buildings on occasion, oftentimes disappearing for days at a time. And when he absconded, it was reported widely in the news and garnered a lot of attention for his vanishing act. And also, that's Tiger. He's a cute
what
little boy.
A good kitty.
Yeah.
But, okay, so any of those sightings would have been only for the allotted time that the cat could have been alive, though.
That's true. I still like your theory of, like, an
multiple
incorporeal
cats.
being. Anyway, so for the second half of this show, we have, again, many spooky tour friends. So, Christopher is a tour guide friend of mine. Celeste and I met doing ghost tours in Alexandria, and I met Christopher doing museum and Capitol Hill tours. And Christopher owns National Nightmares, which is the local ghost tour company, longest running local ghost tour company in DC. He specializes in mostly doing the spooky tales connected to Capitol Hill. Mm-hmm. Again, I will link his website in the show notes. And when we did a chat with him, he was doing stories in his tour persona.
Oh yeah, and it's fun. He put on
he put on his costume and everything.
The accent, yeah, it's very great.
And so his tour persona, he does it a little differently than we do it, where his tour persona is like an actual historical figure. Mm-hmm. And so his tour persona is Samuel Chase, so I think you'll hear him introduce himself as Samuel Chase. But he has a couple of really cool stories, local stories, that kind of thing that you can only get from running a ghost tour company locally. So, cut to that interview.
I am Samuel Chase. My pronouns are he, him, his, it, and Your Honor. Well, I'm certainly not the authority on the Demon Cat. There are legends that have existed about the Demon Cat since even before the building itself existed. So many people attribute the Demon Cat as a demonic feline presence existing somewhere between Eastern Market and the White House. It occupies Capitol Hill most of the time, but legends go back to even before they broke ground in New Troy, Jenkins Hill, or was it the Carroll Farm? We really don't know, because records weren't kept as accurately back then. We do know that there may have been a band of feral felines that were displaced, and that may very well be the reason for their continuing to haunt the location today. We refer to DC, or the Demon Cat of Capitol Hill, as a corporeal haunt. This means it is something you can actually reach out and touch, but be careful what you wish for, children, because it can reach out and touch you right back in ways that you simply cannot understand. Earliest recordation that I know of, and this may even precede Steve Livengood's information, is that one of the first times recorded that DC the Demon Cat was seen was at 7:22 a.m. April 15th, 1865, crossing the first tier of steps in front of the Senate wing. Now, normally, security staff would have been relieved before 7 a.m., and there were 3 beleaguered security staffers who were wondering what the devil was going on. Usually somebody would have shown up between 6:30 and 6:45 so that they could have reported back, filled out their paperwork, and gone home. But as it turns out, by 7:22 a.m. no one had shown up, and they were all getting a little fussy and frustrated. And so the youngest gentleman sees this cat traveling along the first tier of the steps outside the Senate wing on the northeast front of the building. And he decides to unholster his weapon and take a pot shot at the cat. Of course, pistols back then were garbage. You couldn't really hit the broadside of a barn, even at a short distance. And of course he misses the cat, but then Demon Cat turns its head at the gentleman, looks at the 3 of them, and then turns and starts to walk to the north again, takes 3 steps, and promptly disapparates, as in the whole Harry Potter disapparation thing. The young fellow holsters his weapon, turns to the gentleman to his right, and he says, "Did you see?" "I didn't see nothing. Where the hell is everybody? It's 7:22 in the morning. You know, if I get home after 7:30, my wife's going to think I got a girlfriend." The gentleman to his right says, "Coffee. We need coffee." So historically, 7:25 a.m., they leave their post, they go inside through the catacomb entrance underneath the Senate wing, directly behind the stairs. They make a pot of coffee, and all 3 of them agree that they will never tell anyone else about what they have witnessed. And that is the reason why everybody knows about D.C., the Demon Cat of Capitol Hill. Because if 3 people have a secret in Washington, D.C., it only stays a secret if 2 of them are dead. As it turns out, D.C. will be seen many times on, allegedly seen anywhere between the George Washington catacomb, 2 levels below the crypt, part of the original design that was completed about 1834. But you know, by this time, George Washington had already been reinterred at Mount Vernon, and there was no way in Hades or Hanover that his remains to the nation's capital. His original thought when he knew about the crypt the tomb beneath the crypt for he and his family in the nation's Capitol building was that it would be too much of a tourist attraction. So he declined even while he was alive, but he always wanted to be buried at Mount Vernon. According to the legend, the only body ever kept there was the body of Abraham Lincoln. And I believe Stephen Livengood actually has an account of Lincoln ascending out of that tomb area, up those steps into the crypt, and adjusting his frock coat and his spectacles and heading down the hallway. But as far as D.C. the Demon Cat, D.C. is considered a harbinger of doom. She shows up and bad things happen to good people. Now, when I first heard about the legend, I thought, hokum, hogwash, stories, humbug. Didn't really a difference. Did he show up before COVID? Absolutely. Many times. We seem to have a lag in our transmission. But I'll continue on with the other story. And trust me, Revenancy is a calling. It's not something that anybody needs to clamor to do. Basically there to instruct the living not to make the same mistakes as the dead. And that is what a revenant, as you do understand the term revenant, it's a French word, means leftover, like, old meatloaf, and one who comes back from the dead, generally with issues. And trust me, having been the first Supreme Court Justice ever impeached at the hands of Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson, I do have issues. So, I tend to keep them to myself, but we'll get back to Demon Cat. We do have some other incidences after Abraham Lincoln's demise, and that would be consistent with tragedy befalling not only the capital but the nation as well. So, for instance, allegedly shows up in, 1912 for the sinking of the Titanic, and the assassination of Franz Ferdinand. That had impact back here in the nation's capital. And the stock market crash of 1929, allegedly she shows up again. Many recordations indicating significance to past history. But one of the things that I have noticed is that when she shows up on my tour, bad things will happen the next day or even within a week. There's such tragedies as, let's take just for example the first sighting that we ever had on my tour, which was in July of 2014. And she showed up, same cat time, same cat channel, 2 times within 1 week. July 26th and August 2nd. On August 4th, James Brady passed away. Now you remember James Brady, he was the one who took a bullet to the head in 1981 during the Ronald Reagan assassination attempt. It would spawn what we now refer to as the Brady Bill. And it was about controlling weapons, particularly pistols. And Mr. Hinckley, as everybody knows, only had a .22 caliber, but he definitely did damage because he was using what was called Devastator rounds inside. So when that bullet went into Mr. Brady's brain, it exploded, rendered him nearly a vegetable, but he fought back very hard with the help of his beloved wife, and he would serve in the United States Congress until the day he dies. Even if you check your current references, I would say Wikipedia or anything else, regardless of the fact that James Brady would live 33 more years after the incident, it is still recorded that he died of a gunshot wound. And that is accurate, in my opinion. Because nothing good can happen when one is shot in the head with an exploding bullet. Fairly insidious. So, that was the first time, and I thought it was just a coincidence. Anyway, the second time it happened, June 11th, 2015, 2016, I'm having a hard time remembering. It was the incident down in Orlando, Florida, Pulse. We were finishing up a private tour that evening. About 10:15, somebody comes running back with their device, saying that they saw the demon cat. They saw it running underneath the fence near the Jefferson, and there was some temporary fences up at that time via construction and so forth. And the next morning, we woke up to the incident down in Orlando at Pulse. And during that incident, there would be 50 people shot to death, 58 more injured. And I didn't really pay hard attention. But then we would have another incident that would take place in October of 2017, out in Las Vegas. Probably the most serious offense of all that I remember occurring, and this is when it occurred to me that maybe this is not just a happenstance, a coincidence. Now, are these things related? Maybe, maybe not. Is it a coincidence that every time these people get shot, Demon Cat happens to show up on Capitol Hill? And it comes back to haunt us? Maybe. I'll let you be the judge. But the fact is, as I said before, when DC shows up, and no, she's not a tabby cat. She's not some orange cat that hides out in a alleyway that waits for unsuspecting victims to come by, turns, faces them, expands into a rhinoceros or an elephant or whatever. It's unfortunately passed away at some local zoo, and then howls at them and then leaps over them and leaves them in a pool of their own sweat. That is, as we say, cod swallow. Doesn't happen. DC is jet black, emerald eyes. She is a pacer. She wants nothing to do with people she is not going to approach. But be careful if you see her. Watch the news. Wait for the other shoe to drop. If people are looking for a locally licensed, owned, and operated ghost tour that functions on Capitol Hill, this time of year, February operate upon request, because usually it's bloody cold for public tours. But we'll be firing back up again on Friday and Saturday nights come March. We are still the... You can experience while everybody else's prices go up. Ours stay the same. National Nightmares has been around longer than anybody else. We've got more contemporary creeps than anybody else because, well, being on the Hill as long as we have, the Capitol Hill staff, custodial staff, and even some Capitol Hill staffers have told me about unusual experiences they have had, not only in the libraries of Congress, which are rampant right now, and the Capitol building, but also certain places across the street over at the Senate, office buildings, or what we refer to as the SOBs, on Constitution. National Nightmares is definitely your ticket for the best, most authentic, real ghost tour on Capitol Hill. And thank you for the unabashed ability to promote.
Christopher's website for National Nightmares will be in the show notes. And thank you again to Christopher for coming on the show and sharing If you want to support our show, the best way to do that is with money. Patreon.com/drearymidnight.
We have some fun things coming up on
Yeah,
Patreon.
right.
I'm just saying.
So if you want to go vote in the poll while we're still making the big decisions on
Yeah.
that, you
So
gotta start now.
Start in 2024. It
Yeah.
is imperative because this is when we're going to be really nailing down exactly what our Patreon content is, and if you want a say in that, then you gotta head on over.
Head on over. I think the poll will be closing within, definitely by the end of the month, but within the next week or two. On the docket is more gothic stories and terrible tales of tourists trashing things.
That's gonna be a fun segment.
Working title. But if you want access to all of that, again, patreon.com/drearymidnight, or rate and review and subscribe everywhere you get your show. It really does help us in the algorithm, especially if you write a review, write words. It doesn't have to be anything loquacious. It can just be, I like sparkling water.
Loquacious. That's a fun word.
Right. And if you want to get in touch with the show, Instagram.com/drearymidnightpod, or email us, drearymidnightpodcast@gmail.com. And with all that said, keep an eye out for cats when you're on the hill. And safe travels home on this dreary midnight. Good night.
Good night. Because I'm pretty sure it's more Victorian or Edwardian than anything else. Alice in Wonderland.